I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
Hold on. Did you record?
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, what did you text me? Get in here, you piece of crap.
Yeah, no, like I said, that was meant for, that was my other friend Ben
That's meant for
D'Alessio.
someone. That's meant for someone else.
Yeah,
All
different
right.
Ben D'Alessio.
Well, here I am.
Yeah. Thanks for getting in here, by the way.
Yeah, I'm in here.
My friend.
My name. should we go over my name for today's episode first?
Yeah, actually, we should.
I've taken a turn. I'm all for Kathleen Kennedy. I think she should lean in and make it as lame and gay as possible.
Yeah.
Because it feels like that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Make it lame. Make it gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is in reference to that clip of Leslie Headland, who's the showrunner. And we still don't know what a showrunner is. If I'm, I think this was something that we talked about, and
I used to say it was just a producer who hasn't gotten charged with sexual assault yet. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know the showrunners. I still don't know, especially a woman.
Yeah.
All of my knowledge of any of the streaming shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Lord of the Rings. I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
But any like the shows on Disney Plus, and I don't care. To me, that's not canon. That's just like the slop.
Yeah.
Right. And some things I will eat the slop, like Game of Thrones.
Sure.
They're making a prequel series, I believe. Well, not just the House of the Dragons technically is prequel, but like I think even more kind of attenuated to or like more connected to the current series, like the well-known series. Like I'll watch anything like that. But this other stuff, I don't care. So I'm in it solely for the discourse. Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's so Leslie Headland, who is the showrunner of the new Star Wars show, The Acolyte. Somebody asked her, she, and then I think one of the cast members was like, "Oh, so is it true that the Acolyte is like this is the gayest thing to come out of Star Wars?" And then it was basically confirmed, yeah, it is. It's really.
Yeah, it looks like it. Apparently there's like lesbian witches or something
who give birth to Jedis or whatever. Like they're the ones who create Jedis or some shit. So it's just.
What's so funny about this is that I don't mean to toot my own horn, but in my dystopian series, the first two, part of Progressium, part of the quote unquote like science behind it is like they're basically just trying to eliminate men.
Yeah.
And get pregnant without men. And it's like and that takes place 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
Or now like 95 years in the future. And it's like, that's the kind of, when I see shit like this, it's like, you're just trying to get rid of men.
Yeah.
Or men that like you can't control.
Right. Exactly.
Like, or that you can control, I should say. But anyway, so it's solely about the Discord. I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt today. That's what reminded me of it. And, I'm like, you know what? Good for her for leaning in, because South Park did that very poignant episode on her.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Cartman just pretend. I actually didn't see the episode. Just clips like Cartman pretend to be her and just saying to make everything lame and gay.
Yeah,
and it's replaced. I think they replaced all the characters with like lesbian BIPOCs or something.
Yeah,
and make it really shitty. Not because they're lesbian BIPOCs, but because it's just shitty and it's all about identity, not actually substance.
Yeah.
And like if you notice these interviews, a lot of this stuff, like no one is ever really talking about like the interesting stories. Right. Like Game of Thrones. I don't mean to go back to that, but it's like people were talking about like, oh, this character died, or this character, like what move is this character going to make? What's this army going to do? What's this kingdom going to do?
Right.
And here it's just like, we put more gays in it.
Yeah. It's they genuinely believe that diversity in and of itself is a virtue of storytelling. Like that's what makes storytelling good, is just how much representation film or TV series has, rather than we're adding to the lore, we're fleshing out some, we're exploring some of these unexplored aspects of Star Wars. We're answering some key questions. We're and instead of doing like interesting things like that, like the backstory of this character or the backstory of, because from what I understand, it takes place centuries before the original trilogy. So on its face, it sounds cool. Like, okay, cool. Like this is pre Star Wars. let's look at the early days of the Jedi. That's kind of cool, right? But then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you made it all lame and gay. So
And have they not already made that? Like, I don't know. I
don't
can't keep track. I am on Rotten Tomatoes right now. You know, it's a good sign of something just being like crit slop is when you look at
the
Rotten
critics
Tomatoes.
love it, but the audience
Yeah.
does not.
It's an 85 with the critics, a 22 with the audience. Now, I'm sure both of those are inflated and like each one's inflated and deflated. Like people, critics who are mostly going to come from, we're mostly like journalists and professional movie and show critics who are definitely have a leftward bent, and probably a lot of pissed off, you know, incels, Star Wars incels on the audience. But like they're like, there's 128 reviews for critics, over 10,000 ratings for the audience. Like that. And I listened to a movie podcast. Sounds really good. I'll shout them out. They're called, we talked. I think they're in your neighborhood, by the way. And I don't mean that in a stalking way, just from, they talk about they live, or at least one of them lives where Reservoir Dogs was shot. And that's where you live, if I'm not doxing you right now.
Highland Park. Yeah,
in Highland Park, yes, where we just ate at the Reservoir Dogs diner.
That's right.
I can't say Reservoir Dogs without like the thickest accent coming out, which I usually don't have. So they talk about how actually the audience score is usually much more reflective of the substance of the movie. I'm paraphrasing here, and that actually IMDb is just a better thing overall. But I've been using Rotten Tomatoes forever, so that's
the Acolyte on IMDb. The score there is 4.1.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. IMDb is always going to be lower, though.
Yeah,
I've just noticed that it's pretty much always lower. But yeah, so 85-22. We didn't want to get stuck on this, but I'm just saying that I think good lean in. I'm a believer of the market with this stuff. Look, if people watch it, I mean, it's not the same as like cable TV because it's streaming. Yeah. If people watch it, they'll make money. If not, they won't. Disney has so much money anyway. Like they do in a way have fuck you money. They can make the most liberal progressive shit they want. And it's up for other artists and creators to make original stuff, which I think is good. So they want to make crappy Star Wars. Hopefully talented enough people will get pissed off enough to make something, you know, as competitive. But, you know, Star Wars is Star Wars. Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings. It's unfortunate that it falls into these people's hands. But I do think, like, we do better. People who think like us do better when people like Kathleen Kennedy and the crits go too far. And it actually just exposes them more. And it makes people, you know, fall out of line with them, because it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, stop ruining shit that we love for no reason. Like, not because you tried to do something daring or do something interesting and it just fell flat, but because you're just hyper focused on identity.
Right. Yeah. And you know, these are people who are using a popular existing franchise to. I mean, it's very much like a sort of Trojan horse thing, where it's like, we're going to take this thing and we're going to like secretly put in our own bullshit agenda in it, even though they're not even secret. It's not even secret.
At one point it probably was, but not anymore. It's but like, who, again, I don't know the numbers, but they're definitely alienating a large part of their fan base. That's without a doubt. Are they gaining viewers? Like, I don't know any women who didn't watch Star Wars, which has been around since 1978, and all of a sudden 77. Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge. Star Wars. Yeah. A New Hope. Yeah. I think 78. Fuck.
I hate when Mexicans are right.
77. Yeah. Oh, damn. All right. Anyway. Okay. So 77, and like, no, I can't imagine there's anyone who was like, you know what, I'd watch Star Wars, but not enough women of color in it. Like, I can't imagine there's any significant population of viewers. Like, you're only pissing off people who have loved it for at least like a decade, if not several decades. Yeah. So
no, seriously, did you see George? It's funny because all this is happening around the same time. George Lucas was talking about criticisms that his films were just white people. No. Here, I'll put it. This is just from a few weeks ago. So this is in Variety. George Lucas, and look, George Lucas is also like, he's a progressive Democrat, but even he is saying like, yeah, what are you guys talking? Why are you guys making this about race? Like, you know, something's wrong, right? Yeah. George Lucas rejects Star Wars critics who think the first 6 films are all white men. and he says most of the people are aliens.
Yes. like what race is a Wookiee?
Exactly. So I'll bring him because he brings up a good quote here. He's got a good quote. They would say it's all white men. Lucas said of the film's critic. Most of the people are aliens. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. The idea is all people are equal. It's like I never once watched any of the movies and been like, yeah, how come there aren't more Asians? How come there aren't? It's like, it's a huge fucking galaxy. Every movie has a new race of something else. So who gives a shit? Yeah, fine. There's probably a planet that's just Asians. Like, so
it doesn't make like the whole concept of race doesn't exist in Star Wars because there's so many different like sentient, hyper intelligent beings. Yeah, that one of the things is just a big blob.
Yeah,
Jabba the Hutt is just a worm thing.
Yeah,
and he has a ton of power. Like
exactly,
he enslaves a white lady.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it definitely contributes to the idea that the only people who complain about these things are the ones who are actually
the answer. I think the answer to the question is George Lucas's question, like why you focus, because they have nothing else to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they're just superficial. It gets clicks. It's like that's why the Washington Post lost. And I have no idea who this. This could have been nobody. Washington Post lost $70 million. In this last year or whatever it is. I don't know how long, maybe last fiscal year. I guess it's June. Maybe that was it. But like, that's why they're failing is because NPR is failing. Washington, but like they're all failing because all they do is focus on race and people are bored because it's a boring topic.
Yeah.
Like no one cares. We've heard it all before. And they do it because they probably have a tiny base that still likes this stuff, and maybe it's enough to keep them afloat. But a lot of these organizations run on debt anyway, just like most apps run on debt. Like it's all the whole economy is fake. I'm not getting into it. Yeah. Everything is fake, and everything is financialized. And once in a while, something fails, and then the government just bails them out usually. And that's how our economy has worked since neoliberalism. Let's get into something else. Do you want to do New Jersey?
Let's do some Joyzy shit.
Yeah. So yours truly wrote an article that is, maybe a little polarizing. The title is Everything You Love is Because of New Jersey. So, it's not, it's very, there's a lot of wiggle room there. So I'm not going to read the whole thing.
No.
Because like I've said, it's everything you love. But we're gonna discuss kind of the topics that we talk about more. So of course, like we're movies, TV, and then we'll do some music and how New Jersey is not only. So what I want to make really clear in the first paragraph, say this isn't just everything good that came from New Jersey. That's boring. Like any state can do that. That's just boring. Even though I do think New Jersey punches above its weight in many respects. I do like a joke like cough Whitney Houston, cough Jack Nicholson, like some of the best actors come, Bruce Willis, some of the best actors and musicians ours come out there. This is more about like foundational stuff, like the creation. We're not going to talk about it at length. You should go read this. But like the cell phone comes from New Jersey, like tons of technology, tons of innovation in sports, which I won't get into here, but like the first baseball game was played in New Jersey. Football started in New Jersey, our biggest sport. The first ever football game was between, not just in New Jersey, but between two New Jersey teams, Princeton and Rutgers. So stuff like that, like foundational things, the cornerstone stuff, the bedrock stuff. So that being said, let's talk about movies and TV. I'll start by reading it, and then we can just stop. I'm going to flip through, so I can't really read your facial expression. So just stop me if you want to discuss it. All right, and you're probably going to make some. You're probably rolling your eyes. All right. So movies and TV. Also, freedom comes from New Jersey because George Washington fought and basically turned the tides of the Revolutionary War. He started there were more battles in New Jersey than anywhere else, arguably with South Carolina, but he spent the most time in New Jersey, and New Jersey was the turning of the war. So
just because he chopped down a cherry tree there doesn't mean
that wasn't in New Jersey.
Oh,
well, that was in
so it looks like New Jersey isn't that great at all, huh?
First of all, that's apocryphal. Second of all,
I know.
That was in, I'm assuming, Virginia, because that's where he's from. Yeah, he was born in Virginia. So no, but he did the most famous picture ever from the Revolutionary War, him crossing the Delaware. He's crossing from New Jersey to Pennsylvania and then comes back. All right. Thomas Edison built the first production studio in West Orange named the Black Maria. Looks like Maria, it's pronounced Mariah, in 1893. Many of these films consisted of merely capturing everyday moments on film and quote-unquote slices of life. The most notable of these short, silent films was The Great Train Robbery. Probably heard of it. However, it wasn't just a spark of ingenuity that lit the fuse for mass movie making in places like NYC and LA, but the original Hollywood, quote-unquote, also existed in New Jersey at Fort Lee, right across the river from NYC, where seemingly endless supply of actors and laborers crossed the Hudson to catalyze the budding industry. One of the most notable films to come out of Fort Lee was Within Our Gates, 1919, by Oscar Micheaux. It was a direct response to the wildly popular but super racist Birth of a Nation, and is the first completed film by a black director. In fact, it was Nestor Studios of Bayonne that left the Garden State and built the first studio in Hollywood, California. The seeds of Hollywood, as we know it, were New Jersey sown. But the New Jersey impact on movies doesn't end before even the Roaring 20s. And then, so that's kind of the opener. Thoughts?
Yeah. So Hollywood started because it was getting away from New Jersey. I just want to make that clear.
In a way, yes. Fine. But
no, I mean, Thomas Edison, he was kind of important, so that's kind of cool.
Super important.
Yeah, I mean, Nikola Tesla couldn't be reached for comment, but I think that
of course, this is a very biased piece. I know Thomas Edison was a huge piece of shit. And
no, I mean, he was super important for sure. But he was also very litigious, which is kind of what drove. Yeah. Well, hey, you're a lawyer, so there's connection there.
Yeah, look, I know he's not. We talk about we're separating the art from the artist, right? And that's what's important. As long as he didn't sue me or anyone I care about, I don't.
Yeah, really care. No, and that's it's funny because I went through this phase where when like I learned more about Tesla and I was like, man, fuck Edison. But now I'm much more like, yeah, he was kind of a piece of shit, but he also don't deny that the
Tesla was great though. That dude rocked.
Yeah.
Didn't he create a weapon? I don't know if this is true, but I thought I read he made a weapon that he knew would be so devastating to humankind that he just destroyed it and like destroyed all evidence of it and like how to create it.
I wouldn't be surprised from what I heard. I don't know if this is like a variation on that story or if it's a whole other story, but apparently like the U.S. government actually hid a lot of his designs and schematics for things because
he was an American. How did we get it?
I mean, this is crazy times back then, so they probably.
I don't even know exactly. He lived at the city. He was a contemporary of Edison.
Yeah, I mean, he was what do you call it, like an apprentice or like he was like an assistant to Edison. Like he actually lived in the U.S. for a long time.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he died in a New York City hotel, penniless and stuff. Yeah,
it's the way to go.
Yeah,
I think he's like Croatian or Serbian or something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, so Edison was he was a piece of shit, but he was also an important piece of shit.
Definitely, influential. Because there are a lot of pieces of shit out there who don't do anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, this piece of shit invented the light bulb. So
right, exactly. And also, I think I talk about that. I don't know if he necessarily invented the light bulb. I think I looked because I did a lot of research for this, but he basically made it so it's the light bulb we know it today. I think they created the light bulb in England and it was like extremely expensive, not practical, basically. And he made like what we consider the light bulb today, but which is what's important.
Yeah. But getting back to the film thing though, just real quick, because he was very litigious and he was just like patenting everything. Whenever he invented a new piece of camera equipment, he patented the hell out of it. So anybody who would create like a new variation on it, he would just like sue the hell out of them. So that's why a lot of filmmakers in New Jersey were like, okay, we got to go to the exact opposite. So they went to SoCal
as far away as possible,
so that we can invent stuff and we don't have to worry about getting sued by this guy 3,000 miles away.
Right.
And land was cheap.
Well, it started, which is crazy to think about now.
I know, it's stupid, it's crazy,
dude. But imagine getting in early in Southern California.
It's basically paradise because we got mountains and beaches and deserts and valleys. We've got everything here, and it's nothing. It costs nothing basically. So
there was probably a time when like Southern California was Eden, like before it was overdeveloped, before the terrible politics, before like when it like 1953 probably ruled in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
For like white men.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably amazing.
Yeah. But that Black Maria studio, because back then, lights, were still very much in their infancy. They had to use sunlight, so the whole thing was on like a rotating, almost like a big lazy Susan. So they would have, so they could rotate it with the movement of the sun in order to get good lighting in this little studio.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty cool. It's a pretty clever trick.
I actually don't, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is from West Orange. My whole family is from West Orange. My grandfather was the superintendent of West Orange schools. I don't think I've ever been there to the Black Maria. I've been to West Orange several times.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the address and see how close I grew up from it. This is really fucking annoying, is it not?
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just continue with your article. These are Ben's words.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Jersey sucks. It's the worst state. Ben,
it's not popping up. So now I'm going on to more specific. Okay, so again, I'm kind of maneuvering everything here to fit my narrative. So Jaws, the first modern summer blockbuster concerning not just release timing and dramatic action, but the concept of word of mouth buzz, has its roots in New Jersey. Although the film is set on a fictional Martha's Vineyard, the inspiration for Jaws originates from a series of shark attacks taking place in Matawan, New Jersey during the summer of 1916. Peter Benchley wrote the novel, taking place on Long Island, New York, and Spielberg adapted that novel into the foundational movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the real happenings that gave inspiration to the first modern American blockbuster because of New Jersey, because a bunch of people got attacked by sharks.
It's not exactly a ringing endorsement still.
And it's kind of crazy. I know. It's kind of crazy because if you Matawan means nothing to you, but like people who know where things are in New Jersey, like Matawan, it's like not where you would think there would be a shark attack. Like even though we have a long coastline, like relatively long and like populated with lots of beach towns, Matawan's like not on that.
Right.
It's kind of weird that that's where a shark attack would happen. It's almost like on the inlet river type part, like that kind of part of New Jersey that juts in. Like it's up there. It's kind of like the very, very, I don't even think you would consider that the shore. Some people might, but it's kind of like a was it like a marchery, like they would call like the marches or something, like a in-between region of the shore and like central Jersey. And it's just weird to think that shark attack would happen there, but it did. All right, here we go. This is very, this is very much what we discuss here. So the horror genre comes in many forms, recently receiving a makeover with films such as Hereditary, Midsommar, and Get Out, referred to as highbrow horror. But I'm convinced that to this day, a majority of Americans would recall the titans of the quote-unquote slasher genre, namely Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Michael Myers, Halloween, and Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, when asked to name signature horror characters. Do you agree with that, Joe?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Do I think they're the big three? I'd put Leatherface in there too.
Sure. But those are the bigger franchises. Those are the ones that spawned a bunch of sequels. Texas Chainsaw was slower. It didn't have as many sequels. Wasn't
sure. And I don't think horror fans would argue with that. Those are the big three.
Yep.
Where am I here? Okay. Michael Myers may stand menacing. And two of the big three are tied to New Jersey. 2 out of 3. Michael Myers may stand menacingly only to vanish in the blink of an eye on the well-manicured streets of quote-unquote Haddonfield, Illinois, and shot in L.A. But the picturesque suburban setting was inspired by the real town of Haddonfield, New Jersey, wherein co-writer and co-producer Deborah Hill was raised. Haddonfield's a very nice town in like southwest New Jersey. In some pockets of New Jersey, it's common for kids to attend sleepaway camp in the summer. This was the case in my hometown, which receives a very topical reference in the sleepaway camp movie, Wet Hot American Summer, wherein a camper mentions Millburn, New Jersey when hitting on a group of uninterested co-eds. But usually these camps are located in pastoral stretches of upstate New York and New England. Nevertheless, on Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees mercilessly slaughters campers at Camp Crystal Lake in the fictional Cunningham County, New Jersey, and was shot in a few different towns in Warren County, in real life Warren County. That's like as West New Jersey as you can get, kind of northwest. Well, as Meatloaf says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. For the record, Bad Outta Hell was partly recorded at the House of Music in West Orange, and reference photos for the iconic album cover were shot at a cemetery in Wantage, New Jersey. So reference also connected to New Jersey.
Also, here's another connection. So the guy who directed the first Friday the 13th movie, his name is Sean Cunningham.
That makes sense. Is he from New Jersey?
He is. That's none of your business. No, he's from New York.
Oh, boo.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, and actually, our friend of the pod, Jim Clark, who we want to try and have on next month for our annual Horror in July episode.
Yep.
He travels to filming locations throughout the country as much as he can, horror filming locations, and he was going to travel to Camp Crystal Lake, like that. I forget the real name of the campground. I think it's some like Lenape name or something, but he was going to go to that area of Northwest New Jersey with his wife.
Oh, very cool.
He talked about that on the last time he was on, I think.
Well, good. Yeah, I love Jim, and I'm sorry that he has to go to New Jersey, but my most sarcastic condolences to him. But that's good though.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Before the picture-perfect demigod replications that make up the Marvel Cinematic Universe bombarded our theater screens, a different action hero broke into the mainstream. That hero was the flawed, quote-unquote, everyman. This character is cemented as a Hollywood archetype with Die Hard, and with none other than Carney Point's own Bruce Willis. I know I mentioned him earlier. Die Hard was so impactful. Oh, and by the way, Carney Point's in like Southwest New Jersey, very Southwest New Jersey. Die Hard was so impactful in Hollywood that numerous pitches after its release were referred to as the Die Hard version of whatever the heck it was they were pitching. Die Hard on a Bus, Speed. Fun co-host fact. Speed was the first R-rated movie my dad would let me watch.
Oh.
Yep. Big staple in the D'Alessio household. Die Hard on a Plane, Air Force One. Die Hard on a Mountain, Cliffhanger. Die Hard on Alcatraz Island, The Rock, et al. Audiences could connect with John McClane in a way they can't with the energy-blasting, cape-donning, apocalypse-summoning beauties of the multiverses, and it all stems from a guy from tucked-away Salem County who cut up his feet on broken glass. On a different note, Tom Cruise, considered Hollywood's quote-unquote last action star, is a graduate of Glenridge High School in Glenridge, New Jersey. So we got two, baby.
You could also say Moonlighting, the TV show that Bruce Willis was on, that kind of launched his career. That was Die Hard without, the action. So
I don't follow.
It was just like a comedy, romantic TV show.
I know the show.
Yeah.
I know the show.
Yeah. Then there you go.
Why is it like Die Hard?
Because there's no action. It's got Bruce Willis in it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So the first action star and the last action star. Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns, complaints?
Yeah, a lot of complaints. I think that no. I mean, New Jersey's contributed a lot. I will give it that. My only question is, what happened?
Well, we'll get there. Moving on. Then there's we still got more to go, baby. Then there's the modern sports movie and the quote unquote underdog story. There can be only one, and that one is what, Joe? What's the one underdog story? The original.
No, it was a UHF, the Weird Al film from
Rocky.
1999.
It's the quintessential underdog story with a soundtrack and training montage to boot. Of course, Rocky Balboa is a native of South Philly, and the character doesn't have any connections to the Garden State. But the real man behind Rocky was none other than Chuck Wepner, aka the Bayonne Bleeder. Bayonne, obviously, is where he's from. After Wepner, a white boxer from a tough port town, fought the highly decorated Muhammad Ali, a famous black, seemingly unbeatable fighter. Sound familiar? Knocking Ali down, but ultimately losing the fight. Sylvester Stallone began working on the Rocky script. His nickname, I should have put Wepner's nickname, comes from his aggressive, punishment-absorbing fighting style that oftentimes turned his nose into a sieve. But without this psychopath from Hudson County and his surprising knockdown of Muhammad Ali, we may never have Rocky. We may never have had Rocky, and arguably the greatest sports movie of all time.
Interesting.
All right. Mm-hmm. It is. Any comments?
Yeah. No, I'll save it for the end.
Good.
I'll keep my comments in my pocket.
We got a lot to go. This is a kind of laden section of this. This is really one of the longer sections of this piece I wrote here. All right. Prestige TV also has its roots in New Jersey. The Sopranos. Do I really need to say more? List after list has as the greatest television show of all time. It's considered the impetus of the second, quote unquote, second golden age of television, premiering on HBO in 1999. It also may be the most New Jersey show of all time, too. From the wealthy suburbs of Essex County to the burned out urban landscape of Essex County, from the docks of Hudson County to the Pine Barrens in Burlington County and the shore towns of Monmouth and Ocean, The Sopranos is the definitive NJ show. Also check out Boardwalk Empire for a more southerly focused slice of the state too. And while the vast majority of the actors are New Yorkers, our capo, head honcho, James Gandolfini is New Jersey born and raised in Park Ridge. That's up in Bergen County. Also, Joe Pantoliano, as the iconic Ralphie Cifaretto, was raised in Cliffside Park as well. Like Rocky, The Sopranos not only ignited an entire style of television, but gave us the modern quote-unquote anti-hero. Walter White, Breaking Bad, Don Draper, Mad Men, Omar Little, The Wire, Dexter Morgan, Dexter et al. All draw their lineage and appeal from Tony.
Somebody is
pretty
good.
good.
Is The Sopranos is that even good? Somebody said it wasn't.
Well,
somebody on the internet said it wasn't.
That person's dumb. It is fantastic. It is one of the best like paced shows, intersecting storylines. It is a fantastic show. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think any show is perfect, but I've seen. I mean, I'm watching The Wire now. I've seen a lot of what would be, I guess, considered the best shows. I don't know if I'm missing any of the big ones.
Simpsons. Pretty good one.
So
Seinfeld,
but those are different. And yeah, Seinfeld.
Oh, you're talking sitcoms.
Seinfeld's the best sitcom of all time. I mean, like prestige TV.
Oh yeah.
What would maybe? I bet some people would say Breaking Bad. I don't. Usually the other contenders, The Wire.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I'm on season 4. I like it a lot. It's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But unless it really, I mean, there's only one more season. I've like a season and a half or so. Unless it's like an amazing last season, I would not put it above The Sopranos.
They should make some shows that take place in LA. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, there are enough of those.
It'd be nice if we had a few of those, just a little bit of representation.
Although the studios of the early days of movie making left 100 years ago, a shift has occurred, whereby Netflix has heard the ethereal calls of the Garden State. Return east, my sons. And plans to open a gargantuan studio at the old Fort Monmouth Army base in Eatontown, receiving critical approval from the local board in February 2024. I actually passed that. It's an old Army base, did I say? Yeah. I passed it. It's a huge space. It's really cool, too. And it's like a very, it'll be like a campus type thing, which they'll make more stuff. Right. So that's it for, so to recap, it's like the bedrocks of prestige TV, of the sports movie, of the modern blockbuster, of movie making itself. Like, yeah, the Lumiere brothers did shit in France, but like a movie making itself, I mean, pretty good for one state. That's not California also. Yeah,
one weird little like shit stain state. No, obviously no. In all seriousness, no. Yeah, like this is a pretty long list. So yeah, I will say that New Jersey has done some good things here and there. But yeah, so you just answer my question. What happened? Why'd you guys stop?
What happened? Noms, what happened? All right. Do you want to do music? You like music. I saw you shred some gnar.
Yeah,
last weekend.
Some major tunage.
This one's not as long, but just as important. I dropped this knowledge dart. You were even surprised with this knowledge dart when I dropped it on you in LA. How I start this. You were like, oh, really? All right. Music. Would it surprise you to learn, Jose Garza, that the first ever performance of Rock Around the Clock, aka The Devil's Music, considered the first ever rock and roll song? And I even asked you in the car, I said, Joe, what is the first rock and roll song? And you said Rock Around the Clock.
That's right.
Took place only a short drive from the Jersey Devil's lair. More on him later. Well, in 1954, Bill Haley and his Comets of Pennsylvania, not a New Jersey band, but fine, performed the song that changed music forever on Memorial Day weekend in Wildwood, New Jersey. Also, Chubby Checker introduced the version of The Twist, the one you probably know, in Wildwood in 1960, which has to be the most iconic dance in American history. Brief aside, Wildwood is one of my favorite places in the great state, and a stop at the Doo-Wop Museum is a must for anyone interested in American pop culture.
Wildwood, New Jersey, huh?
I love Wildwood. It's one of my favorite places in the state. So yeah, first ever performance of a rock and roll song, arguably the most impactful musical genre in human history.
Well,
right? I don't know about human history, but because it's still fairly young.
Yeah.
And then probably the most iconic dance, the twist. What's more iconic than the twist? People do the twist like ironically when they have to dance.
Right.
So it's like, what's more iconic than that?
Twerking or dabbing. I think those.
No, the twist.
Which I wouldn't be surprised came from New Jersey, to be honest.
Dabbing?
Dabbing or twerking.
No, dabbing.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Would you like me to perform it for you, Benjamin?
Yes, give me one.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I will never dab. I will never dab.
I shall not dab. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Although born and raised in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Lester William Polfus, aka Les Paul, lived the majority of his life from 1952 to 2009. He was born in 1915 in the same Mahwah, New Jersey home. Yes, it's a real town, New Jersey. It's called Mahwah. It's very, very North Jersey. I believe it even borders New York State. They have a very cool high school mascot, the Thunderbirds.
Oh, that's cool. Mahwah. So did you guys like take that from some like indigenous people or something?
Oh, 100%.
Nice.
Yeah, there's actually, I remember reading this funny article. I want to find it again. It's like, is this the name of a Pokemon or a town in New Jersey? It was like Hohokus. That's a real town. Hohokus. H-O-H-O-K-U-S. Hohokus. Or we have a place called, it's pronounced like Chesapeake, but it looks like Cheesequake. Mahwah. There's a lot of really good ones.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is not to say the man spent a career innovating in the bustle of NYC only to retire to New Jersey. But much of the magic we still utilize today was concocted in Bergen County. So again, what I'm saying there is it's like, I'm not just finding like any way, kind of like if you're a lawyer, the international shoe, like minimum contacts that's going over your head, I know, but lawyers will find that reference very, very apt. But like, no, he was creating and innovating in New Jersey. He didn't have a whole career in New York City and then just like move out to New Jersey and die. Like, no, he was creating in New Jersey this whole time for what I say, over 60 years. So, okay. I lost my spot here. Anyway, so if you didn't realize that Les Paul was actually a man, not just a guitar model, don't worry, you wouldn't be the first. Coincidentally, and by the way, at a lot of this, I have hyperlinks to stuff, so it actually makes more sense. Coincidentally, the quote-unquote Gibson Les Paul model was created in 1952, the same year the musician and innovator took root in the Garden State. The man's contributions are not just to rock and roll, the most American of all musical genres, but to all music, period. Besides the guitar model, which was one of the first and most versatile mass-produced guitars landing in the hands of young musicians all over the world, Paul is also credited with overdubbing, delay effects, phasing, and multi-track recordings. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't know what all those things are, but you're a music guy. Are those important?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. I knew they're important because when I kept looking them up, that's what would come up. I don't know exactly what they are, but I know they're important. You want to say something?
Yeah, just real quick. Just overdubbing means like playing, like recording a track, like a rhythm track, and then playing on top of it. Because before that, to record music, it was just like you just got the whole band together, put them in a room, and then you guys just play the track live, basically. But he's like, no, how about we record these different parts in sections, so that way we can get like the best guitar. So so we record the drums and the bass together, and then the guitar. So if the guitar fucks up, it doesn't fuck up the whole record. We just record. So yeah, it is pretty important. So
yeah, I mean, the more people you include, the more you have a chance to fuck up. I mean, I think there is also, and I think it's more popular now, like there's something cool about like a live album, right? Like when you have the whole band, that's special, but it's good to have both. And then he created this other this other option.
Yep.
So his playing style and effects set him apart from contemporaries in the early rock and roll age and inspired musicians and artists across generations and genres. To cement his legacy, he is one of the only artists with a permanent display in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Keith Richards had this to say: "We all must own up that without Les Paul, generations of flash little punks like us would be in jail or cleaning toilets. This man, by his genius, made the road we still travel today."
It's nice writing, Benjamin.
Pretty good. Well, that was a quote. That was Keith Richards.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Well, you picked a good one.
Yeah, I mean, Keith Richards, obviously the guitarist of Rolling Stones.
That's right.
Somehow is still alive. Actually, one of my coworkers was talking today. He went to see the Stones. Mick Jagger's like 81. He's still up there doing it.
Yeah, he's crazy spry too. Like it was like a year or two ago. He posted a video of himself like in a dance studio, like rehearsing, and it's like he looked like, it was from a distance, but it's like I would have just thought like, oh, that's probably like some 20, 30 something year old dancer. But it's like, yeah, he still has those kicks, man. It's
what
scary.
like the joke would be like it's drugs, but no, it can't be drugs. Like if he was 35, if he was like 31 or 41, maybe, but like 81, it can't just be cocaine.
No,
it's really impressive.
Unless it's like a type of cocaine that only rich people can afford, like some like experimental shit or something. So
yeah, maybe.
Or maybe it's what's that adrenochrome? That stuff that comes out of like babies that Hollywood, celebrities are harvesting.
A conspiracy thing that's going to get us
in trouble, demonetized. YouTube. Yeah, I mean everybody knows about it. It's fine. It's an open secret. So,
all right.
Anyway,
moving on.
Yep.
Okay. William J. Count Basie, often assumed to be a Kansas City native, was actually a son of Monmouth County, where he was born in 1904 in Red Bank. He fell in love with music while working at the Palace Theater in his hometown, but there were many excellent jazz musicians during the 1920s, aka the Jazz Age, and many other cities more renowned for jazz music than Red Bank. However, the Count established jazz as a serious art form, taking it from the clubs and into theaters and concert halls, established swing as one of its predominant styles, and forever solidified the link between jazz and blues, from which rock and roll was born. He won 9 Grammys, 2 at the first ever awards in 1959, played at JFK's inauguration in 1961, and his #1 most streamed song on Spotify as I write this is Fly Me to the Moon, with none other than one of New Jersey's most famous contributions to music, Frank Sinatra from Hoboken.
Who's Frank Sinatra? Remind me again.
Well,
he's he's like an indie artist, right?
Yeah, little known lounge singer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty big. He helped fuse, like not just helped, he was like the progenitor of fusing jazz and blues, and made jazz a more respected and kind of like professional, aka expanding it to a wider audience, which then gave birth to what we said earlier in this episode, the most important genre of all time, rock and roll.
Yeah, I think also just like the most important like creative invention of all time too. Like fuck the Sistine Chapel and
and that's all from You're welcome, California from New Jersey. Lastly, a direct line can be drawn from Count Basie's Red Bank to 315 Bowery, New York, but not before making a hard left turn all the way out to Heightstown in Mercer County, where Hilly Crystal, the founder of the infamous CBGB and patriarch of American punk rock, was raised. CBGB, the world-renowned seedy music venue in downtown New York City, as the name suggests, an acronym for country, bluegrass, blues, went through whatever you call the opposite of a glow-up in the 1970s. While Hilly's vision of a country bar never materialized, it inadvertently became a starting point for some of the most iconic punk and new wave bands of the decade, including, but not limited to, the Talking Heads, Blondie from Hawthorne, New Jersey, Debbie Harry was from Hawthorne, New Jersey, Patti Smith from Deptford, New Jersey, Television, the band Television, and most notably, the Ramones. Afterward, I actually wrote that wrong. That should be afterward, not afterward. I was right. After word had gotten out, CBGB became a requisite stop for any band of these genres, akin to a Silk Road terminal, and attracted Iggy and the Stooges, Misfits from Lodi, New Jersey, my personal favorite, and the pioneers of a whole subgenre, horror punk, which can merit its own entry in this very piece, Joan Jett, Sting, et al. So yeah, pretty big deal. Yes, CBGB was in New York City because it had to be, but the creator of it was from New Jersey. His
If it
vision.
wasn't him, somebody else from probably from California would have done it. So
Not a chance. Okay, and that's it for music. Any comments?
Dinosaurs from New Jersey. There are no dinosaurs.
Yeah, dude, don't make it. You want me?
Yeah.
I'll share the dinosaurs one. The first ever dinosaur skeleton was found in New Jersey, like put together where they can make out what it was. Not the first bone ever, but
Yeah.
the first was from New Jersey, a Hadrosaurus. In fact, it's our state dinosaur. Do you guys have it? Do you guys have a state dinosaur?
Yeah, we do.
What is it?
It's that stupid senator chick, that old lady.
Dianne Feinstein?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good. She died though.
Oh, okay. Well, then she's fossilized then.
You guys do. It's called Augustinophilus. Augustinophilus. Sounds like a Greek philosopher.
Yeah, they're like really a dandy dinosaur.
But yeah, so I won't do all the dinosaurs. This is a dinosaur podcast, unfortunately.
Right.
But they were like the whole dude, a really cool topic I want to learn more about. Actually, Michael Crichton wrote a book about it called Dragon Teeth. Was like the Bone Wars. You ever heard the Bone Wars? No. It was like rival paleontologists and like the money behind it and the backstabbing and scheming. It's really interesting. Yeah. And that started in New Jersey and then went out west. A lot of it took place out in like Colorado, Wyoming for obvious reasons, right? There's tons of land out there and digs and finds, but it started in New Jersey where these guys, like one guy, dude, this was so cool about this age. Like one guy just had the skeleton in his house. Like, and you just have like parties and there's be a dinosaur skeleton. If I had money like that, that's what I would do. Yeah. Like now rich people are boring. They do like dumb, weird shit. Like that's the kind of stuff I would do, he says, while saying he wants to put a dinosaur skeleton in his house. But like, yeah. I mean, the
closest we had would be like when Mike Tyson got like a tiger. Like
Nick Cage did buy a Tyrannosaurus Rex head, which is pretty cool. And that's why I love Nick Cage. Yeah. Side note, I'm reading a book about Coppola. I didn't realize, I knew Nick Cage was a Coppola connected, but I didn't realize like how he's Francis Ford Coppola's nephew.
Yeah, no,
I did not know that. I didn't know it was that close.
Yeah, the Coppolas are like Coppola's are basically like Hollywood royalty because like Sophia Coppola and then
of course Sophia, but that's also his daughter. Yeah. So no shade towards her. What I say is I like Marie Antoinette a lot more than most people, but I dislike Lost in Translation a lot more than most people. And I can't name any of other movies off the top of my head. Or Priscilla. Priscilla's pretty good.
He's got that son too, Roman Coppola, who's an Oscar-nominated screenwriter.
August Coppola, August Coppola. He was successful, but I don't think in movie making. His dad was a composer.
That's right.
Was a big composer. I didn't. I just thought it was like Francis. Nick Cage was some. Who also was a Coppola? Ooh. Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. His mom doesn't go by Coppola. Because she was
Talia Shire,
married. She was married to Shire. She's a Coppola, though. She's married to Shire, then divorced her. He passed away. I don't know. And then married Schwartzman. So, but she
even his wife, Francis's wife, is kind of a filmmaker. She did
Eleanor, or
I think so, because I know that she did a documentary on making of
yes, yeah, she did.
I haven't seen it, but I heard it was critically acclaimed. So it seems like everybody in his in his family, like his close family, is like a famous filmmaker. So well, I just lost my train of thought. His like vision, like he was nuts. Yeah, or is nuts, and I like that. You like nuts, like what he wanted. I like nuts. Do you like nuts? Mm-hmm. I like big grandiose visions, but he wanted to basically create American Zoetrope. He wanted to turn into like not just a film. He wanted to be an all-in-one. It trains writers and directors and everything from people who do lights to sound to writing, acting. We talked about that.
We did?
Yeah. When we're talking about what do you call it? Like vanity projects or
on an episode or just
yeah.
Oh,
A couple episodes ago, we were talking about because
Really?
Transmetro, the Cosmopolis or Megalopolis.
Oh yeah, Megalopolis. Okay.
Yeah, and we were talking about like.
Well, I didn't know this yet because I'm reading this in this book.
Yeah.
Which I should. It's called Path to Paradise by Sam Wesson.
Right.
I think he writes a lot about showbiz. He has another book that sounds interesting. I forget what it is. All right. Do you want to touch on the Kendi?
Yeah, let's touch on the Kendi thing because it's so damn funny. So Ibram X Kendi has risen to prominence in recent years because of his stupid ass book, How to Be Anti-Racist or whatever the fuck it is, and he's a piece of shit. And he, so there's that quote that gets bandied about from that book, and it's something like, in order to fight discrimination, to fight past discrimination, we must implement present discrimination.
Yeah,
which is nuts on its face. But I was like, hold on, I'm gonna reserve myself. I'm gonna read like the actual paragraph, like the page, the context, and it was actually much worse. It was actually like it was like digging his heels more into like, we need to like discriminate on the basis of race in order to correct the mistakes of the past. So it's like, okay, this is not taken out of context, or it's not like there's more to it. It's like no, he actually means that.
So this article is in New York Times Magazine, so it's a big deal because you couldn't imagine the New York Times publishing something like this 3, 4, maybe even 2 years ago. Like that just shows how far this whole apparatus, this DI apparatus, has fallen. So the title is Ibram X Kendi faces a reckoning of his own. In 2020, the author of How to Be Anti-Racist galvanized Americans with his ideas. The past 4 years have tested them and him. So this is by Rachel Poser. It came out June 4th. So, this makes it seem like this basically makes it seem like Kendi, I think, knows he fucked up in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think this affected him a lot more. There are quotes in here from confidants or colleagues, friends who say like he's not the right person to become famous. He's actually very introverted. There's hints here. Some people say he's a grifter, even like very liberal people. In fact, there are people, believe it or not, like more progressive on this stuff than he is who are against him. And I want to get into that a little. But he got, I think, $55 million in 2020. I remember 10 million came from Jack Dorsey.
That's right.
Which I won't forgive him for.
I know, yeah.
And then it shows how like that dried. And basically he created what do we even, not foundation, like a
research
school,
facility,
a research facility. Yeah, a
Boston
BU.
University.
Mm-hmm. And they're already firing half or laying off half of the staff. The money's basically gone, and they really don't have anything to show for it. A woman who they brought in to kind of fix the book said after a decade of doing this kind of work, she'd never seen anything so poorly handled. They don't know where the money has gone, even though internal reviews or investigations have not shown any malfeasance. But it doesn't look good, and he comes off as he's in over his head, while at the same time capitalizing on the moment, very much so. There's nothing wrong with that, but to an extent where he's published double-digit books, most of them children's books, and like I just said about the market, people want to buy Anti-Racist Baby. That's the market. That's fine. I can't believe there's still a market for it. I don't think he's self-publishing these, but fine. And it talks about his beginnings. So is there, like, I have all these tabs here of just notes. I mean, he's been a character on our pod, like not on our pod, like we've talked about him since probably episode 1.
Yeah.
So back summer of 2021, we're getting on 3 years now with this podcast, and he's come up many times. I mean, he lost. Yeah. Like, I think the Republicans today even are have drafted and are presenting a bill to basically make DEI illegal. I think that could be I don't think that'll pass the Senate, but that was like a topic for its own. I don't know exactly the specifics of it yet, but it's been hacked away. It's been discredited. I think all rightly so. I think this money can help. All of this money, like $55 million, could have gone to poor, if you want to use the term, people of color, and benefited them in such better ways.
It could have gone to schools,
life changing. That
like...
could have given scholarships to people in these. Talking about The Wire, there, on season 4, there's a lot of public school. Like there's like the kid, like there's a whole kids section basically of like 8th graders, and no one can learn in these schools. I don't see how it's possible. I don't know if this is real. I didn't go to a school like that. I don't know. But if any flower is kind of blooming out of the cracks from that, you have to help those kids. That money could have gone to get tutors to those kids, to get meal. Like some of the kids go fucking hungry.
Yeah.
To get that could have had material changes to promising students in the shittiest parts of the country.
Yep.
And instead it went to BU to have a bunch of people and the funny part here about this is so typical. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but here they're having issues financially, having issues more morale, not morally, but morale issues. You know what they do? They have a retreat. They don't have a Zoom conference. They don't meet in the boardroom or go out to lunch. They have a fucking retreat. That is so typical liberal bullshit. Like how much money are you spending on that retreat? So basically he also comes off as not just an introvert. That's fine. But he comes off as hyper paranoid.
Yeah.
I think some of that might be merited because I'm sure he gets a lot of threats, which is wrong and shitty. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, can I just read this paragraph that touches on his personality, and also just how even the people who worked for him, know that sums up. In the fall, when I began talking to former employees and faculty, most of whom asked for anonymity because they remain at Boston University or signed severance agreements that included non-disparagement language, it was clear that many of them felt caught in a bind. They could already see that the story of the center's dysfunction was being used to undermine the racial justice movement, but they were frustrated to watch Kendi play down the problems and cast their concerns as spiteful or even racist. Piece of shit. Yeah. They felt that what they experienced at the center was now playing out in public. Kendi's tendency to see their constructive feedback as hostile. He doesn't trust anybody, one person told me. He doesn't let anyone in.
Yeah, I had that also. I had feedback equals hostility right here. That's not a good sign for a leader. He sounded like he was way in over his depth. And that kind of sums it up. Like if you have a bad leader, especially in kind of this new pseudo science, this new pseudo social science area, I've listened, especially listen to Blocked and Reported, which is a fantastic podcast where they cover tons of these. This is a pretty big one because this is millions and millions of dollars. This is a well-known writer, a public figure, but they cover a lot of these kind of smaller ones, smaller organizations, nonprofits, coffee shops, I don't know, dog walking groups, knitting, all this kind of stuff. It's the same thing. It's almost a formula of cannibalism, of cutting people down, of being the most radical you can be, and that alienates other people, of casting aspersions at a minimum, at most accusations of downright racism or the exact thing that your organization exists to end or stop or whatever it is. So racism, sexism, abuse, whatever it is. And this is the same thing here where one of his biggest, actually the person who had the biggest, the first complaint, it sounds like kind of the impetus of a lot of this, the first anonymous complaint is to the left of him on this shit, which is crazy because one thing I always defended Kendi on or applauded him for was he never actually bought into the whole black people can't be racist idea or only white people can be racist. He the whole prejudice plus power He never actually bought into that. He says black people can be racist. He says he used to be racist.
Mm-hmm.
He also says I think, I don't know if this is kind of ex post facto or whatever, or if he's just trying to save skin here, but he's like, unlike D'Angelo, and he actually doesn't like getting lumped with D'Angelo a lot, which I found funny.
Yeah.
Unlike D'Angelo, where it's like, no, all white people are racist and you can't do anything about it really unless you do a lot of work, which is worse. Kendi's like, no, in fact, like you could be racist on one thing and not racist on another. And you can change that. And while I totally disagree with his methods of doing that, like that is different than I don't think people realize that about him. I haven't read his book. He doesn't do a good job of propagating that, but that is one thing I always give him credit for. He's like, no. And I would even say during the height of the madness, like even Kendi doesn't believe this prejudice plus power bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, black people can only be I'm like, no, I'm sorry. In New York City, when I see a black crazy person yelling at an Asian person to go back where they came from and making ching chong ching noises, which I actually heard. And multiple times I saw this shit. That's racist. It's racist as fuck. And because that man doesn't have power. Okay, so a poor white person does, but because more members of Congress are white, or they're more white CEOs, like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And it's that's not a functional way to look at society. And I always enjoyed that about Kendi. He's like, no, he didn't agree with that. But the woman who filed this first complaint, which actually I like this. I like that because it shows that it's always going to come from the left. And you can never, if Ibram X Kendi isn't liberal enough, then you're the problem.
Right.
And I love that. And I forget if they name her in here. I think they do, but she was like the most vocal about it in person. And it says she ascribes to the, or she prescribes to the prejudice plus power mindset. And that was alone enough to make her hate him. I think some of his, just to bring these back up, because I think people need to understand how insane he is, though. So again, I was just singing his praises in a way, but no, here, these are some of the scariest things I remember him saying. One was, which I can't believe if anyone did this. I have a note for it. Hold on. Where is it? Okay, maybe I lost it. But it's basically, oh yeah, here it is. So here, when you have the GQ, who's a total joke of a magazine, I can't believe I used to read. They sung his praises. ZZ Packer describes Kendi as a preternaturally wise, Buddha-like figure, the anti-racist guru of our time, with Jedi-like prowess for recognizing and neutralizing the racism pervading our society. So here, one of Kendi's ideas, not like acknowledge your racism, that's easy, right? Whatever. Confess your racist ideas. He wanted people to do that when people were getting canceled, fired, losing opportunities, losing scholarships, losing jobs for doing these kinds of things. And he actually wanted people to confess their racist ideas. Like, I mean, this is one of the most religious aspects. I mean, I'm a Catholic and I understand confession is a big part of that. And that just shows how much of a religion this is. The other
it's much more of a cult. It's more culty. There's a difference between, apologizing for something you did bad, and then making up some stupid bullshit, sin or something, and then being like, yeah, now you need to apologize for that.
Right. So here I checked off this half paragraph, but Kendi is so consumed by combating the racist notion of black inferiority that some of what he says in response is overstated, circular, or uncareful, creating an easy target for his critics and discomfiting his allies. Oh, maybe not. Conservatives were far from the only ones alarmed, for example, by his proposal, this is insane, for a constitutional amendment to appoint a panel of racism experts with the power to discipline public officials for racist ideas. Kendi told me he modeled his proposal in European countries like Germany, where the bar for hate speech is much lower. I would need to look into Germany's, but the fact that they would have this panel of unelected, quote unquote, experts in a field that is largely made up, that they just created, and that is a malleable concept that has ebbed and flowed, that people, all different types of people disagree with, liberals, conservatives, every color, every race, every religion. And this would be able to punish public officials for wrongthink, racist ideas for wrongthink. That's why this man needs to be stopped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also, it's like he looks through this lens, through this very binary lens of racism and anti-racism. There's no such thing as not being racist. It's either you are a racist or you are actively against racism. Like those are the only two options. And he does not see, history as like this, slow, but kind of ever moving progress towards equality and anything. It's like no, it's forces between racism and anti-racism.
Yeah,
it's really fucking stupid. But I will point out a little something here that where it's like I do agree with at least part of kind of like what you were doing earlier. Where it's okay, like there's one part of him that I will agree with here. So those who thought of him as a self-help guru, Kendi felt, simply hadn't read his work. Like most scholars of race, Kendi believes that blackness is a fiction born of colonial power self-interest, not just ignorance or hate, meaning that combating racism today requires upending the whatever. No, but here's the part. But Kendi doesn't like the term systemic racism because it turns racism into a hidden and unknowable force for which there's no one to blame. I agree with that. So he prefers to talk about racist policies. Yeah, if you want to point to a specific policy that has maybe a racial outcome. Okay, that's even if I disagree that it comes from racism, at least you're talking about something specific. We can dig deeper into the details of it.
Yeah, and it can be addressed, and that's that's in here, and you learn this in law school. There's disparate intent, which is illegal, and then there's disparate impact. And now, and they will argue that policies that are they're not they are intended to be racist, but they can be drafted in a way that that intent is hidden and it's shown in the impact that comes out of them. Now that's really hard to do, and even this author, even the writer here, Rachel, is that her name? Poser, yeah. She even gives examples, and again, this is a guy who wanted to make a constitutional amendment. One of the hardest things to do, to make a constitutional amendment of a panel that we went over, and he still gets tied in knots for like very simple examples, scenarios that he can't reckon with. So I'll just read one. So here, okay, here it is. Yeah. So Kendi's focus on outcomes is not new. For decades, civil rights activists have brought lawsuits based on the legal theory of disparate impact, which holds that unequal outcomes prove that certain practices by, for example, an employer or a landlord are racially discriminatory without evidence of malicious intent, right? That's what I just described. Kendi's definition urges us to perform this sort of disparate impact analysis all the time. And he does, and I'm glad she points that out. It's like, this is that you're either with us or against us. Yeah. Everything has to be looked at in a disparate impact lens, and if it's and if black people especially are more affected by something. So Kendi's definition urges us to perform I just said that. In Political in 2020, Kendi proposed the creation of a federal agency, that would clear every new policy, local, state, or federal, to ensure that wouldn't increase racial disparities. But as his team at the center knew well, policies can have complicated effects. Let's say that a local environmental policy would improve the air quality in black neighborhoods near factories, but would also lead to hundreds of lost jobs and worsen the area's racial wealth gap. Should it be cleared? Is such a policy racist or anti-racist? Right. And it's, and that's the question is made even trickier by the fact that the racial impact of many policies might not become clear until years later. Yeah. The legacy of go ahead.
So this task force is for local, state, and federal policies. Like there's gonna have this all-encompassing Big Brother thing.
It's anything. It's like literally anything. And I forget who it is. Some scholar said to him before he published his book is like, look, you shouldn't be looking at this as like only 13% of police brutality cases, because that's the population, the black population of the U.S. should be black people. It should be, let's stop police brutality. Yeah. Right. Which I think a lot more is a resonance with a lot more people. Yes. And that's what it should be. It should be like, okay, let's stop, actual
abuses of power.
Let's stop like the entire communities getting lung cancer because of pollution, or getting their homes destroyed because of some environmental issue or some shoddy cutting corners from developers or something like that. It shouldn't just be like, well, as long as Black people are being affected by it adequately and not more than any other group, then they're represented by, which is what we always say. It's like representation is such a dumb word and not actually what people like him want. It's like, you're telling me that 13% of, look at anything in pop culture, like musicians, movie stars, athletes, like you're telling me 13% isn't represented. Like, I feel like I watch TV. I'd say at least half of the actors are Black, not just like Latino, not Asian, not gay, like that's overly represented. According to him, it should be 13%. You probably wouldn't even notice.
No,
so it's really dumb.
It's that thing I brought up before of like, okay, let's run with your stupid bullshit logic. Let's actually run the experiment and let's see how well you like it.
I don't want an NBA with 13% Black people.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to stick to this representation thing? You want to be accurate? You want the media and sports to represent the actual population demographics of the US?
Do we want 7% of Star Wars Jedis to be gay? Because that's the gay population, which I think is actually an overestimate. That's like the current numbers. I think that's vastly inflated because many, many young people will say they're bi or whatever, even though they're just like, they're just going to be straight, or they're just going to like, they might just be gay. But like, I think there's lots and lots of especially straight young girls who just say they're bi because it sounds better. And I don't think they have any intention ever of being with a woman, being married to a woman, being in a relationship with a woman, and just because you get to be a part of the group.
And it's funny because like in order to actually stick to that logic of like, we need to have like these quotas. It's like you actually have to be racist because like, say you have an industry and then it's like, okay, we're only at 12% Blacks, right? And then we're at 13. Sorry. We've reached our quota, Mr. Black person. We can't bring you on.
Well, no, they only want to go in one way, of course, is the answer to that. Again, no one's complaining about the NBA being 75% Black. No one's complaining about that. So I think those are the big points. I mean, he says some crazy. I mean, we all said crazy shit in college. But which I usually don't care about. Like, I don't care what young people say as long as it's not taken seriously. And what the problem is that too many people have been taking seriously what these idiots say. And you should be like, oh, okay, yeah. All right. Do your homework, go get a job, say whatever you want. But too many people take it seriously now. And I brought up how before, like there were people who lost scholarships because they said something not even racist. They were like singing along to rap lyrics and they were 13 and now they're 17 going into college and they're losing their scholarships. And here in college, Kendi thought accurately, actually, but he's not supposed to say it out loud, that white people are aliens. And he actually believed like this crazy Nation of Islam shit, that we're a devil race. I wish we were this stuff.
Yeah.
It would be so cool if we were the devil race and we were extraterrestrial. We're not. We're just boring peasants from the hills. So yeah, anyway, just because and also I don't know, and again, of course he does this like Pan-Africa bullshit. Like I think if he went over there, they would be like, dude, you're an American. In fact, a lot of, I don't want to speak for groups, but like a lot of Black people in Europe or Black Africans, like they don't like that African Americans just assume that their culture actually is dominant, even though it's extremely impactful. But it's like they have the same rules over there. Like I've always brought up Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who I like a lot as a writer. Mm-hmm. She talks about how like if a Latino went to Nigeria, they would just be white. Like there's no Latino thing. Like, maybe some wouldn't, like maybe more indigenous people, but like there would be no difference. Like, so all the rules don't. In fact, I actually find it very flattening. Africa is an entire continent. It has every religion. I don't know if there are Hindus, there are Muslims, or Christians, there are Jews in Africa. There's there's like different, not even obviously languages, but different language branches. There's Semitic languages. There are Bantu languages. There's all types of different shit.
Yeah.
And I don't like, it's like, oh, well, this is like his name is Zulu. the X, so the Jolani,
Mm.
that's obviously not his given name. It
Yeah.
means peace in Zulu.
Yeah.
And his wife adopted, Kendi's not even his last name. It means loved one in Meru. Are these like, is he from? Like Zulu isn't just Africa. Zulu is specifically like a part, like a people group in Africa, the Zulus. And like Meru, I don't even know what that is, but like that'd be like, well, I'm white, so I'm gonna take this Polish name and I'm gonna take this Portuguese name, but I'm white, so it's fine. It's like, no, these are conflicting things. Like, these don't, and I don't like, and I think Africans would be fucking annoyed if it's like, dude, where's your family from? Maybe you don't know. I understand there's that part to it. Like,
Sure.
But like some parts of America, the black population is very Angolan. Some it's very Ghanaian. Like, it all depends.
Yeah.
And I find it like very, like I've said, flattening that African Americans can just be like, oh, well, it's all Africa. Like, that is so, like, that's so fucking racist. Like, that is so, not racist, but that's so like, I don't know. It's just
reductive. It's just
it's reductive. It's always bothered me. It's like I'm a Kenyan, a Mozambican, and Senegalese or let's say like an Ethiopian Jew, a Mozambican, and a Senegalese all speak different languages. They all have different religions, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're different like haplogroups, they're different cultures, like they're different everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, it's all Africa.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Maybe he is Zulu, maybe he does have connections. I get that, fine. Like, I think Ludacris found his family, like he became a citizen of Gabon, he found history there, whatever. Like, that's cool. White people do that all the time, so I understand that. I understand a lot of black people don't have that luxury. I really do understand it. But it's also like, oh, well, you know, whatever, I'm just gonna pick these things because they sound cool.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I
don't know if you wanted to discuss anything else. The last thing I want to note,
Yep.
which I found really weird, because I've heard Zora Neale Hurston. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't think so.
She's an American writer. One like the first early, like I think Harlem Renaissance era. I don't know if she was considered Harlem Renaissance, like black female writer. She wrote a book that I unfortunately I think she's one of these authors that were like came to notoriety after she died. She wrote this really popular book called Their Eyes Were Watching God. It's on my list to read. And I've heard from like libertarians, like Camille Foster likes her a lot. Coleman Hughes likes her because she's actually very anti-race focused. She's much more, I think, about like just being an individual. She doesn't want to be, like a lot of black people are. And they like that stuff a lot. She's like, no, I'm just a strong woman. I'm a strong person. I'm an American, like all these things. But he also really likes her. He says she's the greatest anti-racist novelist of the interwar era. So I don't know. That makes me want to read her book even more. I just ordered a few books, but I want to read it because her book was on that top 100 list of the most popular American books or most popular books in America.
Yeah.
It sounds really interesting. And yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ibram X. Kendi is a complicated man. And
I guess.
No,
I mean, in the numbers, the last thing I'll say, they got like, oh man, I wish I marked it. They went from like 55 million to like 420. Yeah, wait. The center had gone from raising 40 million in 2020 to 420,000 the next year. So, I mean, but even still, how do you lose that much money? Like, what do they have to show for it?
Right.
What have they done?
Right. It's, I mean, whatever research they put out, if they have done any research, it's just going to support their own like bullshit theories. It's
yeah,
gonna,
like I saw, it's all
methodologies
like some like amicus briefs or something. Okay, like maybe some like statistics, some compiling, but a lot of the stuff that they were trying to do, even the workers that were like, this isn't realistic. Like this isn't helpful. Like this could go to material changes for the most vulnerable populations, and it just goes through the meat grinder of higher education.
Yep.
It's really sick in a way, and I hope people who donate to this bullshit like learned a lesson that your money was flushed down the toilet, probably lined the pockets of quote unquote activists who are really just grifters.
Exactly. Or, snake oil salesman, modern day.
He really is.
Shysters, you know.
I've been saying it for years, man. I feel so vindicated about so many things. I don't mean to sound like a jerk, but like, if you asked me in 2020, 2021, I thought I was losing my shit.
Yeah.
And it's so nice. Like, no, you were right. They were wrong. They're crazy. And that's just what happens.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the Washington Post recently published an article criticizing DEI, what do you call them? Like those letters of allegiance or whatever. Or
yeah, colleges. I think those are going to go more and more colleges. More universities are bringing back the SATs and ACTs and stuff, because you know what universities really need?
Yeah,
they need prestige.
Yes,
if they don't prestige, they don't matter. Yeah. So if you're churning out graduates who can't work, who aren't smart, who can't do shit, and they just know the right buzzwords and take the bullshit majors and all of that stuff, and then they get out there and they're actually causing problems when you have judges and law firms, and this is lawyer specific, but like saying, not only are we not prioritizing Yale Law, we're actually not hiring from Yale Law. Yeah. That's a slippery slope. And people are going to pump the brakes on that, because in the end, these universities are just hedge funds that teach classes. So if you don't even have the prestige, then they're nothing. Yeah. They're worthless.
Eric Weinstein has been talking a lot about this recently. I mean, he's been talking about this for a long time, but he's been talking more about it with regards to the DEI stuff. And he goes, no, we need to be more exclusive. And he talked about how, I think it's at MIT, in one of their lecture halls in the physics department. I could be getting some of the details wrong here, but one of the lecture halls has like this wall that's just covered in portraits and photographs of like Pulitzer Prize winners, and most of them are men. And so Rachel Maddow, for whatever reason, she was given like a talk there, and she pointed at the wall. She goes, "Hey, how come there are so many men up there?" Right after that, like the day after, they took down all of those things. We say, "Oh, we don't want to celebrate men who contribute to lots of science."
Well, they're stupid. And
I know.
And then, like, I don't know, like that 55 million, you know what that could have done? That could have been, you could have sent armies of tutors and scouts to go to these and talk to teachers, talk to guidance counselors. Who are the students who need that final push? Right. Like who can, and then you give them a scholarship to MIT, give them a scholarship to Harvard, even to just, like, to be honest, a lot of students would just be better. I think Coleman Hughes makes this argument, just be better at state schools. Yeah. It shows that most of them, you can go to a good state school and you'll actually graduate, because you know what's worse than going to a really expensive college? Going to a really expensive college and not graduating. And so, like, and Coleman Hughes makes this argument. I think some other, like, I've heard other Black academics say, like, it's better to go to, like, I'll just say, so New Jersey, it's better to go to like a Rutgers and finish. Rutgers is a really good state school. Go to Princeton and drop out after 2 years, or go to Rutgers and finish with an engineering degree, than going to Princeton and finishing with a humanities degree. Yeah. Like, for most people, that will be better. And you could have done that with this $55 million and really helped. And a lot of those kids, they might go back to these communities and help them. People want, like, in the end, a lot of people want to fix where they're from. They take pride in that. I just wrote a whole fucking thing about New Jersey because people take pride in where they're from. I'm sure some will then go live in fenced off, cordoned off sections of the country, but a lot will probably want to use that knowledge to make a better system in their city, in their rural town, or whatever it is, and make connections, and then lobby their congressman or whatever it is to make the people who live in those districts, their lives better. But instead, I went to Ibram X. Kendi. Idiots. They never fucking learn.
Well, in short, Ibram X. Kendi can suck Ibram X. Kendi's nuts. But yeah, well, one thing he will not be able to do, which fortunately you and I and all of our great listeners can do, is stay reckless and to support us, Patreon, follow us on Twitter, and check us out in the description, like and subscribe, and tell your friends, tell your mom about us. So.
Tell your nana.
Yeah. Stay reckless and fight the crits.
Yeah, let's go.